Thorinor Stormfist cursed himself for being a fool. Already a decade into his apprenticeship to Master Runelord Fen, he would have thought some semblance of the Master's wisdom would have ingrained itself within his mind. Instead, his curiosity and stupidity found him frozen in place, bound by the magic of a sorcerer whose arrogance was only eclipsed by his narcissism. "Ah, little Doradin," the human sorcerer said haughtily, his every movement and expression leaking a sense of superiority, only emphasized by the slowly moving tattoos across his body. "Coming to my tower alone. Wasn't it foolish of you to believe this place was freed from the power of Sunder, greatest worshipper of Tzeentch?" As much as it pained Thorinor to admit it, the sorcerer was right. The tower had resided near the tiny village of Gorn for generations. The villagers long forced to serve the sorcerer's every whim or become subject to some of his truly horrible experiments. That was until the forces of the Duradin under the command of Thorinor's Warden King marched in. Clad in heavy armor and sporting hammers and explosives, they expected to face an army of abominations. What they found instead was an empty shell, a tower lacking even the most basic of furniture. The Warden King mocked the cowardice of the chaotic follower to his soldiers, assured the magic user had fled before their might. Thorinor wasn't so sure. Although an advisor to the king, he was still an apprentice, his youth making the Warden King assume his caution was due more to lack of experience than any real threat. Especially when Thorinor himself admitted there was no trace of overt chaotic magic, just a usual taint that required his expertise to cleanse. Still, Thorinor couldn't help but feel something was missing. While most of the Duradin drank through the night with the grateful villagers in the town, Thorinor walked back to the tower. Upon entering the empty first floor, his mind was assaulted with unnatural images and overwhelming pain. His last sight before losing consciousness was the image of the sorcerer Sunder coming through a hidden portal in the wall. Thorinor was awoken sometime later, Sunder apparently requiring an audience, as he wrote reality-altering signs in the air and caused the walls to glow a sickly purple. "Do you hear it, you bearded buffoon? The whispers of the daemons, how they scream in joy at the culmination of my grand plan," Sunder said, his back to Thorinor as he continued his work. Thorinor didn't reply, shifting his eyes around for anything he could use. He eventually spied a very familiar rune he had previously carved into a barrel. Trying to be subtle, he began slowly pouring power into it, hoping the magic of the tower would mask his own. "Did you think I couldn't see the charging armies of your people heading towards me?" Sunder continued, oblivious to Thorinor's actions. "Did you think Tzeentch didn't tell me of your coming months in advance? No, you are simply part of my grand plan. When I finish, this tower unleashes energies, turning all your fellows and the pathetic wretches in the village into chaos spawn under my command. It will be the beginning of my rise to glory." His hand done crafting signs, Sunder turned around and walked back towards Thorinor, standing before the frozen Duradin. "Any last words before I make your soul part of the tower? A tower crafted from the power of my will." "Granted," Thorinor said simply, his face impassive despite the circumstances. Sunder paused, a quizzical look on his face, perhaps wondering if he had heard the Duradin wrong. "What?" "It's not crafted by your power. It looks all glowy now, but it was originally granite, marble, and some obsidian. Although the obsidian seems more decorative. I'm sure it's all twisted up now with mutations, but the base is still a tower of human make. Although even by human standards it's pretty shoddy work. Only reason it's probably in one piece is all the magic you poured into it. Most of your power was probably spent making sure it didn't topple on your head." Sunder laughed, his eyes twinkling. "Is that the best insult you can come up with? My tower's construction is poor. Were you really trying to anger me with such a pathetic jibe?" "Nay. I just wanted you distracted long enough for the rune to do its work." Before the sorcerer could ask another question, the ignition rune on the gunpowder barrel burst into life, igniting it and the other explosives the Duradin army had previously placed in the tower. The fire and pressure throwing both man and Duradin out the thankfully open tower entrance. Thorinor's final thought, as he felt darkness take him, was how angry the Warden King was going to be that he blew up the tower ahead of schedule. Sunder awoke to the feeling of pain as his body slowly knitted itself back together. Raising himself up, he looked upon what was once his tower, now only a pile of rubble, the glow of its magic diffusing harmlessly into the air. Enraged, he turned around, expecting the body of a dead Duradin to mutilate. What he got instead was a beautifully crafted Duradin hammer striking him in the chest. Sunder flew, the strength of the blow overcoming even his own above-average abilities. Rolling and getting back to his feet, Sunder spied the Duradin, who was now charging at him. He casually raised his hand, casting a spell that would burn the Duradin into cinders. At least, that was his intention. Instead, all that came from his palm was a stream of pretty purple sparks. Sunder stood in shock long enough for the Duradin to unleash a second hammer blow, turning Sunder's raised arm into a pile of broken bones. Jumping back, Sunder looked at his now useless arm, his flesh refusing to heal. Looking back up, he saw the smiling face of the Duradin. "Spellbreaker rune on the hammer," the Duradin answered Sunder's unspoken question. "Very effective at disrupting energies like the power of your will." Deciding his army of chaos spawn could wait another day, Sunder turned and ran, hoping his long legs would help him outpace the Duradin's enchanted hammer. And it might have, if that was the Duradin's only weapon. Slicing through the air, the Duradin's throwing axe came to a sudden rest in Sunder's thigh, sinking deep into tainted flesh, causing the former mage to scream and tumble to the ground. His leg now as useless as his arm. As the Duradin slowly walked towards the injured sorcerer, Sunder rolled to his back and began to plead, forcing his one arm to try pushing him away from the approaching hammer wielder. Wait! I can give you anything. What do you wish? Power? Glory? My eternal service? Just ask." The Duradin paused, considering the mage's words before answering. "Bugsman's brew, aged 50 years in oaken barrel, with a hint of lemon." "What?" Sunder said, his confusion briefly overcoming even his fear. The Duradin sighed, shaking his head and raising his hammer. "Thought not." "No! Wait! Sunder screamed, before the Duradin's hammer quickly pushed his head straight into his chest. Long ago in the age of myth, the Duradin, now known as the Dispossessed, were part of a vast network of nations called the Khalizad Empires. Ruled by the Warden Kings, they created vast underground cities and mined the precious minerals of various realms. Keeping to ancient traditions and learning the magic of runecrafting from their god, they were unshakable nations of warriors. Sadly, as is the case for so many others, the coming of chaos changed all that. Although they held their ground longer than most, the Duradin couldn't stop the inevitable. Stronghold after stronghold fell to chaos as the Dispossessed were pushed back over and over again. Their stubbornness no match for the eternal hordes of monsters and the chaotic machinations of dark gods. Eventually, the bruised and bloodied forces of the Dispossessed were forced to retreat to Azerheim, forced to hide behind the walls of another to guarantee the continuation of their race. It was said that Grungmi, smith god of the Duradin, cried tears of molten lead as he saw his children so few in number and laid so low. While other races would be thankful to simply be alive, the Dispossessed only felt rage, the coming of chaos forming a grudge within them that would only be sated by the destruction of the chaos gods themselves. Their quest for vengeance made them even more bound to their ancient traditions and forming a people whose stubbornness is only matched by their hatred. When the grand gates of Azerheim were finally opened centuries later, the forces of the Dispossessed were one of the first in line. Using their mastery of stonework and construction, they made it their mission to destroy the bastions of chaos, bringing down strongholds while crushing the skulls of its chaotic occupants. Upon their ashes they build new fortresses, stepping stones in order to fight against chaos and any other enemy that would get in their way. Leading this army of vengeance, this grudge-bound war throng, are the Warden Kings, hereditary rulers aiming to reconquer the ancient lands of their people, commanding their forces to clear our grudges both big and small. Assisting them are the Rune Lords, masters of runic magic. They advise the king while enhancing Duradin weapons with powerful runic power. Behind them are the warriors, longbeards, and hammerers, fighters holding the line against terrible foes while slicing and crushing enemies with hammer and axe. When a more explosive approach is needed, the Iron Drakes and Iron Breakers are more than willing to unleash hell with flame and rocket, destroying their foes with ever-burning concoctions. Followed close behind are the Thunderers and Quarrelers, unleashing distant death upon their enemies. Finally are the Unforged. Although their minds were long ago broken by chaos, they still serve their people as axe-wielding berserkers, taking down as many enemies as possible before death finally takes them. To be a member of the Dispossessed, to be born into an eternal grudge, to lay down the enemies before you with runic axe and an almost reality-bending amount of stubbornness. Hey guys, this is Arvandus, and I want to say I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like these short stories / descriptions of various races in Age of Sigmar, please like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll keep doing it. Not only Age of Sigmar, perhaps other games that I have interest in. Anyway, thanks for listening, and see you next time.